Welcome to the By Design radio program. My name is Dr. James Proodian of Proodian Healthcare and ProodianHealthcare.com, where health literacy is the key to longevity. And as long as God has us on this side of eternity, my show is designed to help you and your families to feel better, function better, and live as many quality disease-free years as possible. Thanks for joining me this week, and I hope my audience has had a blessed week filled with good health. As you know, this show is designed as an educational show to allow us to be better informed and to make better choices, which then impact our behavior, and our behavior will then impact our health. We just came off of 14 weeks of discussing Change Your Brain, Change Your Body. And it was interesting, as we've come off that book, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from you guys, and I really appreciate it. We've been talking about brain and brain chemistry and how exercise and the type of diet we eat has a direct impact on our brain. And sadly, this week we hear in the news of Robin Williams, who has died due to severe clinical depression. And I just wanted to open the show. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. I'm not starting a new subject matter today. I'm going to have more of a personal conversation with you guys about a couple of things that have just been laying on my heart. I felt like sharing with the audience. The first is clinical depression. It's a really important thing that we all take a really good look around us, especially those of us who are in positions where we're seeing and accessing many people throughout our lives. Clinical depression is definitely a condition that requires intervention. And there are some great Christian counselors. There are great Christian psychologists and psychiatrists out there. And, we want to understand that brain chemistry has this direct impact on this condition. And I think a lot of people confuse being depressed, clinically depressed, with just somebody who's not in a good mood. And we have to be very careful of that. So with this past week, with the loss of Robin Williams, I think that the country hopefully has been, opened their eyes a bit to mental disorders, conditions of the brain. A lot of us are dealing with spectrum disorders with our children, like ADD, ADHD, autism spectrum disorders. And we understand that these are disorders, these are real life conditions that require intervention. And there are some great clinicians out there doing some great work with helping people. So I think that as a backdrop for today's show, we're going to talk about personal behavior and free choice. It's always taken me back. I'm 48 years old. I'm married with 5 children. And every day when I wake up and go to work and do the things that we all do, we all require the thought. We all have to think, and using our intelligence that God gave us, this rational thought, and to have a clear understanding of thinking, in my opinion, is very, very important. I know that's why the pastors, and rightfully so, tell us to start our day in devotion, start our day in quiet time, and to allow the very first thing in our day to be our walk with Jesus and our walk through salvation. So, in other words, the way we're thinking, our intelligence level to create rational thought, that will have a direct impact on our health journey. So I like to tie the two together today, because if we're going to talk about personal behavior, we're going to talk about how we're going to be healthier. So many times it starts with the fact that we have to recognize the fact that we have to stop. Just simply stop. And if that's first thing in the morning, where you find that half an hour or hour to yourself of alone private time, this is going to have a great impact on not only the way you feel, but if you're dealing with anxiety or stress or fatigue, brain fog, we want to address the fact that we have to stop and use our brains to think. Now, some of us are taking habitual use of medication. Some of us aren't exercising. Some of us aren't eating well, right? Some of us watch too much TV, or are entrenched in the entertainment world. Maybe still, indulging in alcohol or hobbies that require too much of our time. We have to see, or in the health journal, write down our personal behaviors. What are the things we're doing with our time? And if we look at the things we're doing with our time, and then we rationally think about, well, I may not feel well. I might have some anxiety. Maybe I'm not going to the gym. Take a look at the inventory of your own life. And today's show is about inventory. Let's take out our health journals that I know you've been keeping all year. And the by design message today is it's a great time of year to inventory. I like to use August every year to kind of clean through things on my desk. It's just an interesting time of year. September is upon us where everybody gets back into life again. But just take a really good inventory on your nutritional, your physical, your psychological walk, and also if there are hurdles in your life that are keeping you from clear, rational, God-loving thought, we want to take those hurdles and really write them down and do something about them. That goes back to personal behavior and free choice. So again, intelligence, rational thought, personal behavior, and free choice. So if we get into a deeper understanding of why God created us, a deeper understanding of who God and what salvation is, that's going to allow us to flourish. It's going to allow us to understand that we were created, and as creations of God, our by design, right? He designed us. Our by design will then allow us to take better care of ourselves. But we have to put the cart before the horse here. So this is kind of like, here we are, we're a group of adults, we're sitting around, we all have our health journals in front of us. We're taking a look at where we're spending our time. I know, for instance, personal story with me, I have Saturdays and Sundays at this point in my life pretty much off. I used to work a lot on the weekends, but I don't anymore. And I'm really territorial about the time on Saturdays and Sundays that I have, because I wanted to spend it with my children and my wife and go to church and do the things that are important outside of my work life. So I plan for that every week. And if you are someone who has a difficult time planning, pencil and paper is one of the most important tools you could have in the shed. Take the pencil and paper out, sit down every Sunday, and start planning your week out. Now, I read a very important book years ago. It was written by a Christian author. It's called The Three Deceivers, and I highly recommend this book. And in The Three Deceivers, it talks about how we could write down what we think we're going to go about and do in our day. And that's very important to have. But on the other side of the page, write down all the things that happened to you throughout your day that you didn't plan for. That's called serendipity. It's called, it's called life. Things are going to come and go, but we have to be prepared for those things that come into our life that we're not prepared for. Now, how are we going to be prepared for those things? Number one, we're not going to be stressed out. We're not going to be carrying around a burden of fatigue or anxiety. And if we are dealing with clinical depression, we're going to get that treated. So we do this inventory. We kind of take a clean house approach so that as we embark on our daily or weekly plan, and I know on your plan, the very first thing is to wake up and do devotions, like we talked about earlier. Making smarter decisions is based upon our personal behavior and free choice that's ordained by God. So if we inventory and look at our walk as number one, a Christian, but number two, not only as a Christian, but as a servant of God, we want to then take a real hard look at our own individual lives and going back to the things that could be hurdles to keep us from God and also keep us from good health. Things like I said earlier, alcohol, TV, entertainment, hobbies, anything that, and there are certain things like hobbies that we have in our lives that are very healthy for us, okay? But then they could become addicting. And if they keep us from the things that are important, well, then that's not good. I find that in our society, guys, and you might be like me, I'm just an armchair quarterback watching the news from a distance. And I find that in our society, there are so many distractions. And I almost feel as though the news and people want to keep confusion and distraction in our lives, because if we were able to live a less distracted, less confused life with a million things going on at once, we could actually follow God's plan of doing things well, one at a time, meaning slow down, take an inventory, be organized. Don't let those distractions come into our life. Get clinical syndromes and diseases treated. If you have type 2 diabetes and you're on insulin or you're pre-diabetic, get it treated with proper nutrition, proper exercise. Get your conditions treated. If you have lower back pain that is just chronic and is gnawing at you, or headaches, get them treated with qualified people. That's why people like me exist in the world, is to treat people like you. Go out there and find them. So as we bring all of these pieces together about personal behavior and free choice, here we are in August. We've just completed 7-8 months of education. Before we move on into a different subject matter, I want to stop. I just want to say to my audience, stop. Let's take inventory. Let's create plans. Let's take a deep breath. Let's go for a massage. It calms us down. It makes us feel good. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Let's get into the Word. Let's really clear out our heads. And if we're taking habitual medication, and I even mean things like Advil or Aleve or over-the-counter meds because you have a chronic pain, go get that looked at. We don't want to be taking medication year in and year out if it's not necessary. So I'm not someone that has just a quick Band-Aid answer to this, but it's a multidimensional conversation, because personal behavior and free choice is essential to the plan that we're living and the plan we're living for God. So hopefully some of that made sense today. I just had to get that off my chest, because I see so many people struggling with fatigue, with top of mind consciousness thought. There's a new thought coming out of them every 10, 20 seconds. Their brain is so wired into fight or flight that they can't calm their brains down. And that doesn't allow us to have a by design intelligent way of thinking that requires rational thought and decision making. So let's get rid of those stress hormones that are fueling that. The second part of today's show, which is kind of going to take me out of the by design for a second, I just wanted to make point about, again, this is a personal thing. This past couple of weeks, my heart is heavy. I watch the news probably like you guys do, and I see what's going on over in the Middle East, particularly with respect to the Christian brothers and sisters, and looking at a genocide on the other side of the world. Being Armenian, I wanted to share just some personal thoughts with you on the subject matter. And the Armenian genocide occurred 100 years ago, started in about 1914, and a lot of people have been in private conversation with some friends, family members. If you want to get a good handle on a great history lesson, a book written by Morgenthau, who was the ambassador to Turkey back during World War I. He gave the best eyewitness account on this and gives great insight to what's even happening today. I wanted to share that with you just as a personal story. I'm second generation in America. My family came from Armenia in the 1920s to exile Armenia from the genocide. And I think it's an important subject matter that when we're talking about personal behavior and free choice, and then complete irrational behavior and murderous behavior, so hard to digest and to swallow and to see. We understand, being Christians, what is in our Bibles, but it's, as a human being, I think it's important to have an understanding from, if you want to do a little bit of history lesson, the Morgenthau book is a great place to go to. Also, guys, the By Design Ministry is on the road now. We're going to be doing some events throughout New Jersey. My next event, if you want to come and see me speak live, these are set up as charitable events. This one, for instance, on September 13 is for Solutions Pregnancy Center down in Shrewsbury. I'm going to be speaking at Monmouth Worship Center. That's out in Marlborough. Again, that's Monmouth Worship Center in Marlborough, September 13th. starting at 9 a.m. to noon. I'll be speaking for about 90 minutes, and if you want any information about that, feel free to contact me. If you have a church or organization that you'd like me to come and speak at, please contact me. So today's show, I broke out into a few different pieces. Personal behavior and free choice. When you take your health journals this week and you are logging the behavioral changes that you've made from a stress perspective, from a nutritional perspective, and from an exercise perspective, remember, all of these things are fueling our brains, and it's all with the goal to have a clearer, sort of less cloudy thought process, so that we can make better decisions. We can make decisions that are thoughtful, that are loving, that are caring, that are filled with empathy for the people we're talking to, and that can't happen in a toxic environment. So as we make these better decisions and we create clarity in our lives, the inventory that we're doing in our lives, to take inventory of our life, to do some organizing, and to start writing written plans in our lives to obtain not only a better walk with God, but a healthier lifestyle and a wellness lifestyle while we're here. Thanks for listening to me this week, Dr. James Proodian, and the By Design radio program. If you'd like any information about me, please go to ProodianHealthcare.com, and you could submit any questions. If you need the book that I referenced today, that would be Morgenthal's book. You could also email me. That is, a very inexpensive read. You could buy it at Amazon, and I think it'll shed a lot of light as we pray for our Christian brothers and sisters throughout the world. Have a blessed week.